A beef between two titans of the New York music scene hits the sex trafficking and racketeering trial of Sean Diddy Combs. Why 50 Cent was brought up this week during emotional witness testimony. Combs and 50, they've been at odds for a long time. And now, one of them is facing the possibility of spending the rest of their life in federal prison, and the other is not, holding back or hiding the apparent joy they find in that possibility happening with the guilty.
Nobody expected 50 Cent to step into that courtroom. For years, he'd been throwing shots at Diddy on social media, jokes, clowning, calling him out in his signature way. But when he walked through those doors and took the stand under oath, everything shifted. This wasn't about trolling anymore. This wasn't a beef over gossip. This was war. And what 50 Cent brought with him wasn't just petty drama, it was a grenade.
Sean Diddy Combs and 50 Cent. These two go back a long time. They have been rivals for a long time. And this week we learned that, at least from Diddy's side of things, this feud apparently went far beyond words. 50 Cent's name came up during the testimony this week. Capricorn Clark. She is a former assistant of Sean Combs who went on to become the head of marketing for his Sean John clothing brand. Clark rose successfully and professionally through the ranks of Diddy's world during her time working for him, which stretched between 2004 to 2018, so she saw a lot. Clark claimed that Diddy would threaten her. She says he even kidnapped her in 2011. All of this matters as we build up to how 50 Cent kind of factors into what she said on the stand. Now, Capricorn Clark started working for Bad Boy after she worked for Death Row Records. Now that's surprising, since Death Row was ran by perhaps Diddy's most hated enemy, Suge Knight. Clark said that one of her good friends had a baby with Suge Knight, and that's how she knew him. And in perhaps the most shocking story from her testimony, Clark claimed that shortly after she started working for Diddy, Diddy and his security guards took her to Central Park after dark, and Diddy said, quote, "He told me he didn't know that I had anything to do with Suge Knight, and if anything happened, he would have to kill me." It is an allegation that paints Combs as someone who is ready to take a life. But as Capricorn Clark's testimony continued, she brought up another rival of Sean Diddy Combs and another allegation that he made an ominous threat of violence. Clark testified, when working for Diddy, they went to a press event at MTV and 50 Cent was there. And just wait until you hear what she says Diddy told 50's manager. 50 Cent's real name is Curtis Jackson. He rose to fame in the early 2000s. You might remember songs like In the Club. You might remember that he was the leader of the rap group G-Unit. Now, 50 grew up in Jamaica, Queens, New York. Diddy, also a New York native. He was born in Harlem, grew up in Mount Vernon, New York, just about 20 miles away. And even though they both had success in music, they both rose to fame representing the city of New York and the rap scene there, they have been longtime rivals. In 2006, 50 Cent released a diss track about Diddy. So almost 20 years ago, this goes back a long way. And in that diss track, he says, quote, "Who shot Biggie Smalls? We don't get 'em. They gon' kill us all. Man, Puffy know who hit that expletive. Man, that expletive soft." Now 50 is accusing Combs there of knowing who killed his friend, the notorious B.I.G. Christopher Wallace. Wallace and Puffy were incredibly close, but Wallace was shot and killed in a drive-by shooting in Los Angeles in 1997, and no one has ever been charged for pulling the trigger. This all happened during really the height of the East Coast West Coast rap rivalry of the 90s, which involved Suge Knight, who we mentioned earlier. 50 Cent has also accused Diddy of orchestrating the murder of death row rapper Tupac Shakur, who died in 1996 in a Las Vegas drive-by shooting.
The courtroom was stunned. Diddy certainly wasn't prepared for this. Once 50 started speaking, there was no turning back. He opened with a simple but powerful line, "I've known Sean for a long time. Longer than most here. I know the public Diddy, but I also know the private one." With that, the tension in the room cracked wide open. 50's tone wasn't loud or theatrical, it was cold, calculated, and deadly serious. He explained he never intended to be part of this case. He tried to stay out of it, but when he saw the stories, heard the whispers, and learned what was really going on dark and disturbing, he knew he had to speak. He detailed parties, not the ones posted online, but the private, exclusive gatherings that only happened after the cameras were.
This is Dwayne Keith D. Davis. He was arrested in September 2023, and he is the only person facing charges related to Tupac's murder. But 50 Cent has continued to push the allegation that Sean Combs either knows something or did something for Tupac to end up dead, though Diddy has denied that. But in a 2023 Instagram post, 50 wrote, "Damn, so Pac got lined by brother love, LOL, time to lawyer up, expletive, might get sticky," with a pic of Suge Knight in a car with Tupac. Diddy, who has a lot of names, Puff Daddy, Puffy, Puff, and Brother Love is one of those other names. Now from Diddy's side of things, again, he's denied having anything to do with Tupac's murder, and he's also denied having anything to do with Christopher Wallace's death, and he's denied publicly having issues with 50 Cent. Here's what Combs said when he was asked about a beef with 50 in a 2018 interview with the radio show The Breakfast Club, Power 105.1 FM.
Hey, yo, I don't have no beef with
I don't know why.
with Fifth. He loves me. He loves me. Do y'all
We
really
can't
have a
see it.
beef? I mean, y'all can't see it.
No, we can't.
Y'all can't see that he loves me?
But see,
You really, hold on, you really think that's hate?
If you look at 50's social media, you can see he has a lot of posts about Diddy. This is what he posted the day that federal agents in Miami raided Combs' mansion ahead of his arrest on the charges that he's now on trial for. 50 Cent posted on X, "Now it's not Diddy do it, it's Diddy done. They don't come like that unless they got a case." 50 Cent also included a link to his G-Unit clothing brand in that post. While Diddy in the Breakfast Club clip said that 50 Cent actually loves him and there was never a beef, on the stand this week, Capricorn Clark said otherwise. Clark said that she was at this press event at MTV with Diddy and 50 Cent was also there, all of this happening in New York. Clark said, quote, "After the interview wrapped up, myself, Puff, and Chris Lighty got in the elevator." Clark said that Lighty was an entertainment manager who, on paper, was managing Diddy at the time, but was also 50 Cent's manager at the time. Prosecutors asked Clark what happened in the elevator. And she said, quote, "Puff told Chris, because they were having some sort of issue, like, I really don't like all the back and forth. I don't do that. I like guns." The prosecutor then asked, "What's the issue with an individual?" And Clark responded, he had an issue with 50 Cent. She said Combs was very serious when he said that. In this case, it has become common to hear testimony from witnesses about alleged threats by Diddy. In fact, several witnesses have said that Diddy regularly threatened to fire people, to beat people, like his former girlfriend Cassie Ventura, and in this case, making a threat involving firearms to settle a dispute, per the testimony of someone who was one of his closest associates for more than a decade. Invoking gun violence and some sort of veiled threat, that could be scary for some, but apparently not 50 Cent.
Often phones were put away. He accused Diddy of creating spaces where the lines between pleasure, power, and manipulation blurred. He called it predatory. Diddy thrived on control, watching people test boundaries, push limits, and when they resisted, they were quietly cut out, disappeared from the industry. 50 recounted a night he'd never forget. It was years ago, after a music event Diddy hosted. The scene looked typical: bottles, music, famous faces, but something was off. Guests looked nervous, uneasy. He left after an hour, but the next morning, he got a call from someone who stayed behind. They were shaken, whispering about pressure, coercion, and things they'd seen that they couldn't unsee. 50 realized then that this wasn't just wild partying, this was about control. About how Diddy used his influence to create an environment where people either succumbed or vanished. From there, the stories piled up: artists who suddenly fell out of favor, employees who quit abruptly, friends who distanced themselves without explanation. According to 50, this was no coincidence, it was a pattern.
On Instagram, 50 posted right after his name came up in the courtroom, quote, cut, wait a minute, Puffy's got a gun? I can't believe this. I don't feel safe, with a picture that looked like an AI image of 50 Cent on a movie set looking serious. And he wasn't done. Shortly after that, he posted another AI image on Instagram of him in a Yankees hat with a very scared look on his face with the caption, "Oh my goodness, itty bitty Diddy wants me dead. I have to lay low. sad face emoji. I think I'm gonna hide out at the playoff game tonight, LOL. Then the next day he posted what he did that night. He went to the NBA playoff game between the New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers in Indiana. And you can see him here in a picture on the floor in a shirt that reads, quote, "Free Diddy," playing into the trolling that 50 Cent has done to Sean Combs over the years, even before Combs was ever accused of what he is on trial for. Now, Combs' trial is expected to last another month at least. He's charged with racketeering, sex trafficking by force, and transportation to engage in prostitution. He has pleaded not guilty. Join us now to talk more about the trial of Sean Diddy Combs and everything that's going on inside the courtroom is Afi Patterson, civil and criminal defense attorney. Thanks for taking the time to be with us. We're focusing on what was a minor moment in the grand scheme of everything we heard in the trial this week. There's this anecdote that Capricorn Clark told about what related to 50 Cent, but what Diddy allegedly told 50 Cent's manager at MTV during her time of working for Diddy. What did you make of that? Sean Combs saying, "I don't like the back and forth, but I like guns."
I think it goes to the overall case. They've been saying that Diddy was a dangerous guy. If he made a threat, he could back it up. And I do recall reading that she said that his demeanor was very, very serious. And knowing his history, his violent history, knowing about the beef between Biggie and Tupac, I think that it probably frightened him. And I think that just again, her knowing about his violence, intensity for violence, his behavior with her, his behavior with Cassie, his behavior with other employees, he's continually reinforcing that violence. So I think it was a really good moment for the government.
Yeah, it's just, and it seems like there are these little moments along the way where there are some celebrity names that pop up. This case, it was 50 Cent. We heard earlier in the trial, Usher and Neo were at a dinner where Cassie was allegedly assaulted. It was unclear whether they saw that, but it was said that they were there. As far as the history of 50 Cent and Diddy, do we know how it started? I know that 50 Cent had a diss track, I think around 2006, claiming that Sean Combs knew who killed Biggie Smalls, but is there a particular incident that happened that made 50 Cent just seem to really start to come at Sean Combs?
Then he dropped the bombshell. In the early 2000s, someone inside Diddy's circle approached him with an off-the-books opportunity, something exclusive, elite. When he pressed for details, they backed off, and soon after, Diddy confronted him, telling him to forget it. The look in Diddy's eyes that day haunted 50, like he knew 50 wouldn't play along, and he didn't like that. As 50 laid it all out, the courtroom grew tense. He didn't yell or dramatize, he just told the truth, his truth. But as he delved deeper, things got darker. He spoke of people confiding in him, artists, staff, who felt trapped, threatened, or blackmailed. Whispered conversations about Diddy's files, photos, videos, material that could be used to silence or control. He never saw these files himself, but the fear was real. Many left Diddy's studios emotionally shattered, their careers and spirits broken, yet most never spoke publicly.
Now in a new interview recently published by The Hollywood Reporter, the Get Rich or Die Trying rapper isn't mincing words on how he really feels about his arch rival. In the interview, 50 Cent addressed his relationship with Diddy, who faces a number of troubling allegations including rape, sexual assault, sexual harassment, and sex trafficking over a string of lawsuits. 50 Cent says he's been very vocal about not going to Diddy's now infamous parties, which have been alleged as the site of some of the heinous acts he's been accused of. While referring to Diddy as his old moniker Puffy, 50 Cent said, "I've been very vocal about not going to Puffy parties and doing stuff like that. I've been staying out of that stuff for years. It's an uncomfortable energy connected to it." When asked if someone told 50 Cent if the energy there was off or if he went to something that felt odd, 50 replied, "He asked to take me shopping. I thought that was the weirdest stuff in the world, because that might be something that a man says to a woman." He would go on to say, "From that, I wasn't comfortable around him." 50 Cent would go on to discuss the brutal hotel surveillance video released in May, which showed the Bad Boy founder horrifically attacking his ex-girlfriend Cassie. That incident was mentioned in Cassie's now settled lawsuit against Diddy, in which Diddy allegedly paid $50,000 for the tape. Once that video was made public, Diddy issued a public apology. However, didn't mention Cassie by name, as it's been reported Diddy is no longer able to say her name publicly as a part of their settlement.
I was stuck. I hit rock bottom. I make no excuse. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy. Going to rehab. Had to ask God for His mercy and grace. I'm so sorry. But I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
The video was published to Diddy's Instagram, but has since been scrubbed from his page. Diddy's rival 50 Cent had choice words about the brutal video, saying first he denied that even happened, and then the tape comes out, so that means everything that N-word says is a lie. When someone watches that, if they have a daughter and they can imagine her being under those circumstances, that stuff is crazy. Like they let him get away with it. With all the influence and power you have, the person you're with is supposed to be a part of your life, not be forced. 50 Cent has long touted his plans to make a docu-series about his longtime rival. When asked what made 50 want to produce the series, he replied in part, "I'm the only one from hip-hop culture that's produced quality projects."
Diddy couldn't hold it in anymore. He leaned forward, whispered to his lawyers, then slammed his hand on the table. The judge called for order, but the outburst revealed more than words ever could. Diddy was unraveling. 50 watched silently, unfazed, as Diddy's facade cracked. Then, 50 did something unexpected. He got personal. He talked about his own struggles in the industry, how hard it was to navigate fame, power, and people like Diddy. He highlighted something even more disturbing, the silence of those around Diddy, how enablers, protectors, and friends would turn a blind eye, defend him publicly, but whisper the truth in private. 50 declared he was done whispering. His final words, "This isn't about beef. It's about the truth. People need to know who they're really dealing with." The courtroom sat in stunned silence. But outside, it was a different world. A storm had erupted. The media pounced like wolves. Cameras clicked non-stop, reporters barked out frantic questions, and every newsfeed lit up like wildfire. Social media didn't just react, it exploded. Clips from years ago resurfaced, 50 Cent warning the world in interviews that were once brushed off as trolling or industry banter. But now, those old soundbites hit differently. They weren't jokes anymore. They were prophecies. Chilling, sharp-edged warnings we all ignored. Fans and followers dove headfirst into the archives. They dissected old tweets, dug through forgotten interviews, unearthed throwback videos and behind-the-scenes stories. Piece by piece, the puzzle came together. And what they found wasn't a coincidence, it was a pattern. A dark, disturbing pattern hiding in plain sight.
50 Cent and Diddy have collaborated on a few songs together, and when 50 was an unsigned rapper more than 20 years ago, he used to ghostwrite for the Bad Boy founder. But 50 Cent made it clear the two just worked together. He replied in part, "I wouldn't call it a friendship because there would be disappointment between us if we didn't speak to each other. There's points that we worked together." 50 Cent would go on to credit Jennifer Lopez, Diddy's ex-girlfriend, who 50 Cent said told Diddy he would work with him as a songwriter in the beginning of his career. 50 Cent said this occurred when he was getting back to work after being shot several times in May of 2000. He would recall, though, one time when Diddy called and 50's oldest son's mother answered the phone and 50 refused to talk to Diddy. 50 would go on to say he didn't want to answer the phone because he didn't want to ever party or hang out with him. He replied, "Puff is a business person. When people call him a producer, I see people that were taken advantage of who produced things that he took from them. He got credit. He's not a producer. He's been able to take advantage of the business and the creatives in it. I don't have any interest in doing that. I actually fall under the creative, so I just didn't want to hang out with him.
Diddy's empire, long viewed as polished, powerful, and untouchable, was now being torn apart layer by layer, lie by lie. And through it all, Diddy stayed silent. No press conference. No Instagram statement. No damage control. For a man who built a brand on being loud, flashy, and always one step ahead of the headlines, his silence was louder than any denial could have ever been. But make no mistake, this wasn't just about an old feud or musical rivalry. What 50 Cent did in that courtroom wasn't petty. It wasn't calculated for fame. It was a reckoning. A raw, brutal unveiling of what really happens when power goes unchecked behind velvet ropes and closed doors. And the scariest part? He's not the only one. More voices are coming. More witnesses. More stories. More receipts. The industry is rattled. Shaken. Because if someone like Diddy, rich, connected, beloved by many, can be exposed, then no one is safe. Not the labels. Not the executives. Not the insiders who stayed quiet for years. This isn't just a scandal, it's a cultural earthquake, and the aftershocks could reshape the entire entertainment world. This is no longer just about Diddy. It's about everything and everyone that allowed him to move unchecked. It's about a system built on silence.